You know, Nintendo is really sneaky when it comes to talking about things they are and are not doing. Like for instance, they said they didn't have any campaigns or Nintendo Switch games planned for the Zelda 35th anniversary, right? Well, they never said anything about not having Nintendo 64 Zelda games, did they? Or even GameCube games if they'll eventually get to that. Nintendo is very sneaky. Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo-chan Show, where we cover the latest gaming news, leaks, and rumors from Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo in 2020 and beyond. If you want to be kept up on the latest gaming news, make sure you click that red subscribe button below this video and that notification bell so you know when I upload. And if you're interested, I have a Patreon, which link to that will be in the pinned comment along with my Twitter account. In this video, we're going to talk about all the information that broke out over the Nintendo Switch Pro rumors that just everyone loves to talk about, right? But we will also talk about Nintendo's response, why a new console or Switch is likely, and why Nintendo may not be too honest when it comes to their response. We also have to talk about the Nintendo Switch OLED leaking early and more Game Boy and Game Boy Color games for the Nintendo Switch online service. If you guys enjoy this video, leave a like, it helps fight the YouTube algorithm and brings the video to more viewers. And if you want to follow me on Twitter and help me reach our goal of 800 followers, you can follow me at RoboRob93. So more Nintendo Switch Pro rumors have popped up, guys, and for those who don't know, the Nintendo Switch Pro was rumored to have 4K graphics, DLSS, and on top of everything we found in the Nintendo Switch OLED as well. It was rumored to be revealed at E3 2021, but as we saw, that did not happen. More rumors have popped up, and this time Nintendo has responded, so let's dig in. So this report was by Bloomberg, and according to Bloomberg, 11 game companies currently have Nintendo Switch 4K development kits for their games. These range from smaller studios to larger studios. Interestingly enough, even a studio that has never made a console game has one as well, and this is according to their employees as well. Now, Nintendo has responded, and this is what they said. News report on September 30th, 2021 falsely claims that Nintendo is supplying tools to drive game development for a Nintendo Switch with 4K support. To ensure correct understanding among our investors and customers, we want to clarify that this report is not true. We also want to reinstate that, as we announced in July, we have no plans for any new models other than Nintendo Switch OLED models, which will launch on October 8th, 2021. Now keep in mind that this is the corporate account for Nintendo, not Nintendo of America or any of the other accounts. It's kind of like the big honcho stepping up, the guy behind the guy, so to speak. Now usually it would be pretty surprising that they would respond to any rumors at all. I mean, how many Nintendo rumors constantly go on throughout the year and they don't say anything? But this time it's near the launch of the Nintendo Switch OLED. That is the important thing here, and that's why they definitely responded to this rumor. Whether this rumor is fake or not, it doesn't matter. In their eyes, this is probably a problem for pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch OLED. If I had one pre-ordered and I had a 4K Nintendo Switch that had the same stuff from the OLED but just 4K and more stronger and better, I probably would cancel that pre-order, even if I had to wait a year. So then adding the tweet specifically mentioning the Nintendo Switch OLED was bound to happen, but are they telling the truth right here? Because you see, Nintendo has a history of not being 100% too honest with their response, especially when it comes to being asked if they have a new handheld or console in the works. And this even extends to their games as well. In the intro I mentioned that they said no Zelda games, right? That was something I saw frequently in the comment section of those videos, but we are getting Zelda games through the Nintendo Switch online service. You see, they use very specific wording in their message during that Nintendo Direct during E3. They use the words no campaign for Zelda's 35th celebration and no Nintendo Switch games, as in no ports, remasters, or anything that has a Nintendo Switch cartridge on it. They never said anything about Nintendo 64 games. And even if you think that's grasping at straws, what about the Nintendo Switch OLED? Fun fact, on February 1st, Nintendo was asked in an investor Q&A on whether or not the company would be announcing any upgraded models. Now, Nintendo President Shitaro Furukawa responded with this: not anytime soon. And keep in mind, this was before the Nintendo Switch OLED was announced, just a couple months before that actually. Not even half a year later, the Nintendo Switch OLED was announced. Now you could say, well, the Nintendo Switch OLED isn't considered a new Nintendo Switch, except for the fact that on Nintendo's own website they say meet the newest member of the Nintendo Switch family, which means yes, Nintendo does consider this a new Nintendo Switch as it's a new member of the family. I mean, you don't get a new baby brother or baby sister and then tell people, oh, that's not a new member of the family. I've also been seeing a lot of people pull up different tweets and different articles from the past about the 3DS, them lying about that, about the upgrade for that. So this really isn't the first time Nintendo has twisted their words or made it seem like something else to make people think that something else is going to happen, if that makes sense. This is why you always look at what Nintendo does and not what Nintendo says, because they are very tricky with their words. So it's entirely possible that Nintendo could be lying or twisting the words like they did with the other past times when it comes to the Nintendo Switch Pro, especially especially when another console is coming out alongside a game that Nintendo has been marketing the heck out of, and that is of course Metroid Dread. Now I know some of you guys are gonna say it's too early for the Nintendo Switch lifecycle for a new console, and to that I have to say, is it really? Because in March it's gonna be 5 years. If the Nintendo Switch Pro were to exist, I would expect it not to come out until 2024 at the latest. Nintendo has been doing this for a very long time with their consoles. In fact, Nintendo is treating it very much like the Nintendo 3DS, and that's very important here. The 3DS and the Nintendo Switch share so many similarities that it's kind of shocking. I'll show you right now. Get this, the original DS was released in 2004, the DS Lite was released in 2006, 2 years later. When was the Nintendo Switch revealed again? Oh yeah, 2019, 2 years later from the original Nintendo Switch in 2017. That's not where the similarities end though. They carried the DS brand all the way up until the 3DS in 2011, 7 years later. And if you remember, just like the Nintendo Switch, it was selling very well. The DSi was the last one to be released in 2009, 2 years after the DS Lite. Now what are we getting 2 years after the Nintendo Switch Lite? We're getting the Nintendo Switch OLED. Then you move on to the more powerful 3DS in 2011, which would be 7 years after the original Fat Boy DS. As I remember it was pretty big. Now that rumors are already popping up, even if these rumors are true, you would expect it to come out in 2023 or 2024, the same lineup as the DS to 3DS. I'm mostly guessing 2024 though, because the Nintendo Switch is selling very well and they just released the OLED model. They would probably want to give that 1 or 2 years to gather sales and then switch on to the Nintendo Switch Pro. And you know what 2024 would be? It would be 7 years. The same amount of time from the DS to the 3DS. So would it be shocking for Nintendo to show up with another console in 2024 when that's 7 years? In my opinion, not really. Nintendo consoles typically have a lifespan of 5 to 6 years, sometimes 7. It really depends on how well they're selling. With that being said, this is speculation based on a rumor and some dates and what Nintendo does and not what Nintendo says. So take it with a grain of salt, but it's really weird to see how well that lines up. Overall guys, this is pretty exciting, but honestly part of me is kind of sick of the Nintendo Switch Pro rumors, but another part is just me wondering what would it be like to have a more powerful Nintendo Switch, because I'll tell you, playing Breath of the Wild on PC with a higher resolution, texture, frame rate, and so on is just wonderful. And a lot, and I mean a lot of these Nintendo Switch games would be glorious with a Nintendo Switch Pro patch. And with our main topic out of the way, let's switch over to our quicker and more smaller news. It seems the Nintendo Switch OLED has actually shipped out early to some consumers, and you know, it's weird when it comes to Nintendo consoles and games because this seems to happen a lot and it's usually a Best Buy or Target for some reason. Now since then there have been a ton of different videos on YouTube, so if you want to see the Switch Pro in action, including Nintendo's own channel, it is up there. And next up, Game Boy and Game Boy Color games are still going to be coming to Nintendo Switch, which is a rumor by the way, so it's not official yet. As we've seen, the rumors about the controller and the Nintendo 64 games on the Nintendo Switch Online service comes true, so it probably will come true. I wouldn't doubt it, but that's just me personally. Make your own opinion. Just know that there are plenty of Nintendo Switch Online rumors floating around already. And not only Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, but it is also rumored that more rare games are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. Which, I mean, that's kind of like saying water is wet. Banjo-Kazooie was already featured in the video for the Nintendo Switch Online service, so it kind of makes sense that more rare games do come to the Nintendo Switch Online service. And before anyone says that Nintendo does not want rated M for mature games on their console, have you looked at the eShop? We have Doom, we have Resident Evil, I think we have Dead by Daylight 2. I mean, heck, there's literally a, spicy game, let's say, with cartoon characters doing questionable things. I mean, we have Witcher 3 on there as well, guys. I think Nintendo is fine with rated M for mature games by now. And last up, we have the Grand Theft Auto trilogy being rated in Korea. Now, if you've been watching the Robotron show, you will know that last time a game got rated, it was the Castlevania GBA collection, which it was in Taiwan, by the way, which was revealed at the September Nintendo Direct and later released that day, I believe, or it may have been the next day. Now, I do have this on the script. It says the Tokyo Game Show should be either past or going on when I upload this video, and it should be out sometime around there. The Tokyo Game Show is still going on, and it is not out, so that was wrong, but most likely we'll probably get it. Usually when things are rated, usually we end up getting it very soon. And that's all the topics for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more gaming news. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.